Prokopev. Mahoney kicked away his gun. "You're under arrest," Ned yelled into the face of the wounded Russian. "We know who you are." A helicopter appeared between the sentry's towers. A woman was screaming from one of the windows several stories above us. Now the helicopter was landing. What the hell was this? A man came out of a window in the tower and dropped to the roof. Then another man. Professional gunmen, it looked like. Bodyguards. They were quick on the draw and began shooting the instant they hit the roof. HRT returned fire. Several shots were exchanged. Both gunmen were hit and went down. Neither got up again. HRT was that good. The helicopter was setting down on the roof. It wasn't media or police. It was there to get the wolf and whisk him away, wasn't it? There were shots from the helicopter. Mahoney and I fired into the cockpit. There was another rapid exchange of gunfire. Then the shooting from the helicopter stopped. For several seconds, the only sound on the roof was the loud, eerie whir of the helicopter's rotor blades. "Clear!" one of our agents finally yelled. "They're down in the copter." "You're under arrest," Mahoney screamed at the Russian in his underwear. "You're the wolf. You attacked the director's house, his family." I had something else in mind. Another kind of message. I leaned in close and said, "Kyle Craig did this to you." I wanted him to know and maybe pay Kyle back someday. Maybe with Zamoshit. Chapter 115. I hoped to God it was over now. We all did. Ned Mahoney flew back to Quantico that morning, but I spent the rest of the day at FBI headquarters in Lower Manhattan. The Russian government had filed protests everywhere they could, but Andrei Prokopev was still in custody, and State Department people were all over the FBI offices. Even a few Wall Street firms had questioned the arrest. So far, I hadn't been allowed to talk to the Russian again. He was scheduled for surgery, but his life wasn't in danger. He was being grilled by someone, just not by me. Burns finally reached me at around 4 o'clock in the office I was using at FBI New York. "Alex, I want you to head back to Washington," he said. "Flight arrangements have been made. We'll be waiting for you here." That was all he told me. Burns signed off, so I didn't get the chance to ask any questions. It was obvious that he didn't want me to. Around 7:30, I arrived at the Hoover Building and was told to go to the SIOC conference area on 5. They were waiting for me there. Not exactly waiting, since a shirt-sleeves meeting was already in progress. Ron Burns was at the table, which wasn't a good sign. Everybody looked tense and exhausted. "Let me bring Alex up to date," Burns said when I entered the room. "Have a rest. Kick back. There's been a new wrinkle. None of us are very happy about it. You won't be either." I shook my head and felt a little sick as I sat down. I didn't need new wrinkles. I had more than enough already. "The Russians are actually cooperating for a change," Burns said. "It seems that they're not denying Andrei Prokopev has Red Mafia connections. He does. They've been monitoring him for some time themselves. They hope to use him to penetrate the huge black market still coming out of Moscow." I cleared my throat. "But—" Burns nodded. "Right. The Russians tell us, now, that Prokopev is not the man we're looking for. They're certain of it." I felt completely drained. "Because?" It was Burns's turn to shake his head. "They know what the wolf looks like. He was KGB after all. The real wolf set us up to believe he was Prokopev. Andrei Prokopev was one of his rivals in the Red Mafia. To be the Russian godfather? To be the godfather, Russian or otherwise." I pursed my lips, took a breath. Do the Russians know who the wolf really is? Burns's eyes narrowed. If they do, they won't tell us. Not yet, anyway. Maybe they're afraid of him, too. Chapter 116. Late that night, I sat at the piano on the sun porch with one of Billy Collins's poems running around my head. It was called The Blues. It inspired me so much that I sat at the piano and made up a melody to go with the poem. We had lost to the wolf. It happened a lot in police work, though nobody wanted to admit it. Lives had been saved, though. Elizabeth Connolly and a couple of others had been found. Brendan Connolly was in jail. Andrei Prokopev had been caught. But we seemed to have lost the big one, for now anyway. The wolf was still out there. The Godfather was free to do what he did, and that wasn't good for anybody. The next morning, I arrived early to meet Jamila Hughes's flight into Reagan National. I had the usual butterflies before her plane got in. But mostly, I couldn't wait to see Jam. Nana and the kids had insisted on coming to the airport with me. A little show of support for Jamila and for me. For all of us, actually. The airport was crowded but seemed relatively quiet and peaceful, probably on account of the high ceilings. My family and I stood at an exit from Terminal A, near the security check. I saw Jam, then so did the kids, who started poking me. She was wearing black from head to toe. She looked better than ever, and Jamila always looked good to me. "She's beautiful and so cool," Janny said, and lightly touched the back of my hand. "You know that, don't you, Daddy?" "She is, isn't she?" I agreed, looking at Janny now rather than at Jamila. "She's also smart, except about men, it would seem." "We really like her," Janny continued. "Can you tell?" "I can. I like her too." "But do you love her?" Janny asked in her usual no-nonsense, get-to-the-heart-of-the-matter way. "Do you?" I didn't say anything. That part was between Jam and me. "Well, do you?" Nana joined in. I didn't answer Nana either, so she shook her head, rolled her eyes. What did the boys think? I turned to Damon and little Alex. The big boy was clapping his hands and smiling, so I knew where he stood. "She's definitely all that," said Damon, and he grinned. He always got a little goofy around Jamila. I moved toward her, and they let me go alone. I snuck a glance back at them, and they were grinning like a Cheshire Cat family. I had a lump in my throat. Don't know why. I felt a little spacey, and my knees were weak. Don't know why, either. "I can't believe everybody came," Jamila said as she slid into my arms. "That makes me happy. I can't tell you how much, Alex. Wow, I think I'm going to cry, even though I'm a tough-as-nails homicide detective. You all right?" "You aren't all right, I can tell." "Oh, I'm fine now." I held her tight, then I actually picked Jam up, set her back down. We were quiet for a moment. "We're going to fight for little Alex," she said. "Of course," I told her. Then I said something that I'd never told Jamila before, though it had been on the tip of my tongue many times. "I love you," I whispered. "I love you too," she said. "More than you can imagine. More than even I can imagine." A single tear ran down Jamila's cheek. I kissed it away. Then I saw the photographer taking pictures of us. The same one who was at the house the day we were evacuated for personal safety. The one hired by Christine's lawyer. Had he gotten Jamila's tear on film? Chapter 117. They came to the house on 5th Street. They came about a week after Jamila went back to California. Them again. One of the saddest days of my life. Indescribable. Unthinkable. Christine was there with her lawyer and Alex Jr.'s law guardian, and a case manager from Children's Protective Services. The case manager wore a plastic ID around her neck, and it was probably her presence that bothered me the most. My children had been raised with so much love and attention, never with abuse or neglect. There was no need for children's services. Gilda Horanzo had gone to court and been granted a declaration of order giving Christine temporary guardianship of little Alex. She had won custody based on the claim that I was a lightning rod for danger, putting the child in harm's way. The irony of what was happening was so deep that I almost couldn't stand it. I was trying to be the kind of policeman that most people wanted, and this was what I got? A lightning rod for danger? Is that what I was now? And yet, I knew exactly how I had to act this morning on 5th Street. For little Alex's sake. I would focus on what was best for him. I would be supportive during the handover. If it was possible, I wouldn't let anything frighten the boy or upset him. I even had a long printed list of Alex's likes and dislikes ready for Christine. Unfortunately, Alex wasn't buying any of this. He ran behind my legs and hid from Christine and the lawyer. I reached around and gently stroked his head. He was shaking all over, quivering with rage. Gilda Horanzo said, "Maybe you should help Christine take little Alex to the car. Would you please do that?" I turned and tenderly wrapped my arms around the big boy. Then Nana, followed by Damon and Janny, knelt beside him for a group hug. "We love you, Alex. We'll visit you, Alex. You'll come see us, Alex. Don't be scared." Nana handed Alex his favorite book, which was Whistle for Willie. Janny gave him his love-worn plush cow, Moo. Damon hugged his brother and tears started down his cheeks. "I'll be talking to you tonight. You and Moo," I whispered, and kissed my son's darling little face. I could feel his heart going fast. "Every night. Forever and a day, my sweet boy. Forever and a day." And little Alex said, "Forever, Daddy." Then they took my son away. Epilogue. Wolves.
Pasha Sorokin was due at the courthouse in Miami at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. The van he rode in was escorted from the federal prison by half a dozen cars. The route wasn't known by any of the drivers until the last possible moment before departure. The attack took place at a stoplight just before the cars would have gotten on the Florida Turnpike. They hit with automatic weapons and also rocket launchers, which took out most of the escort cars in under a minute. There were bodies and smoking metal everywhere. The black van that Pasha Sorokin was riding in was quickly surrounded by 6 men in dark clothes, no masks. The car doors were yanked open, and the police guards were beaten and then shot dead. A tall, powerful-looking man strode up to the open door and peered inside. He smiled playfully, as if a small child were in the prison van. "Pasha," the wolf said, "I understand that you were going to turn me in. That's what my sources say, my very good sources, my incredibly well-paid sources. Talk to me about this." "It's not true," said Pasha, who meanwhile was cowering in the middle seat of the van. He wore an orange jumpsuit, and his wrists and ankles were bound by chains. He no longer had his Florida tan. "Maybe, maybe not," said the wolf. Then he fired one of the rocket launchers point blank at Pasha. He didn't miss. "Zamochit," he said, and laughed. "One can't be too careful these days."